1 year after humans first joined the war, the Alliance prepared for its most ambitious operation yet. After dozens of victories using human tactics, they were ready to strike at the heart of the Void Collective, their central world, where the controlling intelligence was believed to reside. On the flagship Guardian, Admiral Han and General Park stood side by side, looking at the massive fleet gathered around them. Over 2,000 ships, the largest force the Alliance had ever assembled. "Are you sure about this?" Han asked quietly. Park nodded. "Our intelligence is solid. Thanks to the captured Void ships, we know where their central control is located. Strike there, and the entire collective will fall into disarray. And the cost?" Park met Han's gaze directly. "High. Very high. But the alternative is worse. Over the past year, the Alliance had pushed the Void Collective back from many conquered systems, but the enemy was adapting to human tactics. Each victory became harder than the last. Their only hope for ending the war quickly was this bold strike at the enemy's core. "The Council has approved the operation," Han said, "but some members still have reservations." "About our methods?" "Yes. Some fear we've gone too far, that we've abandoned what made the Alliance special." Park considered this. What made the Alliance special was its unity, its ability to bring different species together. That hasn't changed. "We've just taught you to fight more effectively." Han wasn't entirely convinced. "There's a difference between fighting effectively and fighting without limits. In an existential war, the only limit that matters is survival," Park replied. "But I understand their concern. After this is over, the Alliance can return to its principles. First, we have to make sure there is an Alliance left." The massive fleet moved into position near a hidden wormhole that Colonel G's team had discovered. This secret path would allow them to bypass the Void Collective's outer defenses and strike directly at their central world. On the Determination, Commander Min briefed her crew. "This will be the hardest battle we've faced. The Void Collective will throw everything they have at us to protect their central intelligence." A young Alliance officer raised his hand. "Commander, is it true that we're using the new weapon designed by the humans?" Min nodded. "Yes. The biophage virus targets the biological components of Void ships, turning them against the mechanical elements." "Isn't that cruel?" the officer asked hesitantly. Min had asked herself the same question when she first learned of the weapon. The Void Collective has consumed entire worlds. Billions of people are dead because of them. Sometimes, cruelty to a cruel enemy is necessary. It was an answer she had heard from Major Sun, and while part of her wondered if it was true, another part knew they had run out of alternatives. "All ships report ready," her communications officer announced. Min took a deep breath. "Signal the Guardian. We're prepared to begin." The battle began with the fleet emerging from the wormhole directly above the Void Collective's central world. The surprise was complete, for approximately 3 minutes. Then the defenses responded with overwhelming force. Hundreds of Void ships rose from the planet's surface. Orbital platforms turned massive weapons toward the Alliance fleet. The space around the planet became a storm of energy weapons, missiles, and fighter craft. "Push forward," ordered Admiral Han from the Guardian. "Focus all fire on the primary defensive platforms." The Alliance ships fought with a coordination and aggression that would have been unthinkable before humans joined the war. Ships sacrificed themselves to create openings for others. Specialized vessels targeted key enemy systems rather than trying to destroy whole ships. Human-designed viruses disrupted Void communications. On the Determination, Commander Min guided her ship through the chaos, targeting a massive command platform orbiting the planet. "Deploy the biophage," she ordered when they were in range. Missiles streaked from the Determination, carrying the deadly virus developed by human and Alliance scientists. When they struck Void ships, the biological components began to attack the mechanical systems they were connected to. Some ships simply shut down. Others turned their weapons on nearby Void vessels. "It's working," Min's tactical officer reported. "The virus is spreading through their fleet." But the Void Collective fought back with desperate intensity. 3 Alliance cruisers exploded nearby as Min watched. The Guardian itself took heavy damage but continued to direct the battle. For 3 days, the fighting continued without pause. Alliance ships rotated crews while maintaining position. The Void Collective threw every available resource into the defense of their central world. On the 3rd day, as both sides neared exhaustion, Colonel G made a critical breakthrough. "We've located the Central Intelligence," he reported to General Park and Admiral Han. "It's not on the planet, it's in a heavily shielded station orbiting on the far side." Park turned to Han. "If we destroy that station, we end this war." Han looked at the tactical display, calculating what it would cost to reach the station. "We'll lose at least half our remaining ships. But those who survive won't have to fight anymore," Park said quietly. "No more Alliance worlds lost. No more billions dead." Han closed his eyes briefly, then nodded. "Give the order." The final push was the most brutal phase of the battle. The Determination led a strike force of 40 ships toward the hidden station, while the rest of the fleet created a diversion. "They know what we're doing," Min told her crew as Void ships converged on their position. "They're throwing everything at us now." One by one, ships in the strike force were destroyed. By the time they reached the station, only 7 remained, including the Determination. "Target the central node," Min ordered. "All weapons. The combined." Firepower of the 7 ships hammered the station's shields. For a moment it seemed they might fail. Then the shields collapsed, exposing the structure beneath. "Fire everything," Min commanded. The station exploded in a blinding flash. For a moment nothing happened. Then, across the battlefield, Void ships began to drift, their coordinated actions dissolving into random movements. "The Central Intelligence is gone," G confirmed after analyzing sensor data. "The collective has lost its coordination." What followed wasn't a victory celebration but a methodical cleanup operation. Disabled Void ships were captured or destroyed. The central world was quarantined. Slowly, the reality sank in. After more than 20 years of war, the Void Collective had been defeated. 3 weeks later, on the observation deck of Alliance headquarters, Admiral Han found General Park looking out at the stars. "The last Void ships have been neutralized," Han reported. "The war is officially over." Park nodded but didn't smile. "Good. The Alliance Council has voted to offer Earth full membership," Han continued. "Your people have earned it." "And how did you vote, Admiral?" Han stood beside the human, both of them watching the stars. "With gratitude and caution." "Caution?" "You humans are remarkable allies," Han explained. "But some on the Council worry what kind of neighbors you'll be in peacetime." Park turned to face him. "A fair concern. We taught you to fight like humans. Some of those lessons might be hard to unlearn." "Will they need to be unlearned?" Han asked. "Or is ruthlessness simply part of who you are?" "It's part of who we can be when survival demands it," Park answered thoughtfully. "But it's not all we are." Han extended his hand in the human gesture they had shared many times now. "Then I look forward to learning what else humans can teach us." As they shook hands, both leaders knew the galaxy had changed forever. In the Alliance had survived, but it had been transformed by its contact with humanity. For better or worse, humans were now part of the galactic community. The war was over. The questions about what would follow had just begun. The end. The sun was setting over Colony 7, painting the sky with orange and purple. Do-hyun walked quickly through the narrow streets. He was 16 years old, tall for his age, with dark hair that fell across his forehead. His thin frame moved with purpose as he clutched a small bag close to his chest. "I need to get home before curfew," he muttered to himself. Colony 7 was one of many human settlements on the outer rim planet Varus. The buildings were simple, made from whatever materials humans could find. Nothing like the grand cities of the galactic empire that ruled over them. Do-hyun turned a corner and saw his home ahead. It was small but better than most. His parents, both scientists before they fled Earth, had managed to create a decent life here, far from the watchful eyes of imperial officials. As he reached for the door, a loud boom shook the ground. Do-hyun looked up to see 3 Imperial ships breaking through the clouds, their engines glowing bright against the darkening sky. "No, not today," he whispered. Imperial sweeps usually happened once a year. This one was early. He pushed through the door. "Mom, Dad, the Empire is here." His mother Yoonju was already rushing around the house gathering papers and small devices. His father Tae-woo was kneeling by the floor opening a hidden compartment. "Do-hyun, quickly," his father said, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "Take these and put them in your special pocket." Tae-woo handed his son 3 small discs, each no bigger than a coin. They contained his parents' lifework, designs for nanites that could repair almost anything. Technology the Empire had banned centuries ago. "Remember what we taught you," his mother said, placing her hands on his shoulders. "Information wants to be free. Technology belongs to everyone, not just the Empire." Outside, sirens began to wail. The sound of heavy boots stomping through the colony streets grew louder. "We don't have much time," Tae-woo said. "If they catch us with these designs..." He didn't need to finish. Everyone knew what happened to humans who developed forbidden technology. The Empire called it reconditioning, but no one ever came back the same. Do-hyun slipped the discs into a hidden pocket in his jacket. His parents had designed the pocket with special material that blocked Imperial scanners. At least they hoped it did. The family huddled together in their small living room, trying to look normal. Perhaps the Imperial soldiers would pass them by. Perhaps this time they would be lucky. The door burst open with a crash. 6 Imperial soldiers stormed in, their armor gleaming under the harsh light of their helmet beams. Behind them stood Captain Jia, a human woman in Imperial uniform. Do-hyun felt a chill. Captain Jia was known in the colony, a human who worked for the Empire who helped them hunt her own kind. Some said she did it to protect humans, to make their lives easier under Empire rule. Others called her a traitor. "Inspection," she said, her face blank. "By order of Grand Sovereign Yaxil." The soldiers spread through the house, scanning everything, tearing cushions, opening cabinets. One soldier held a device that beeped as he moved it over surfaces. "Captain, we have readings of banned tech activity in this house," the soldier reported. Captain Jia's eyes narrowed. "Search them." Do-hyun's heart pounded as a soldier approached him with a scanner. The soldier moved the device over Do-hyun's body. It remained silent. The hidden pocket was working. Relief flooded through him. But then the soldier moved to a small desk in the corner. The scanner went wild. "Here," the soldier said, pulling open a drawer. Inside were parts of an old communication device that Do-hyun's father had been fixing. "That's nothing," Tae-woo protested. "Just an old radio, for music." The soldier ignored him and continued scanning. The device led him to the floor panel that Tae-woo had hastily closed earlier. The soldier opened it and pulled out a tablet. "Captain," the soldier called, handing the tablet to Jia. She studied it, her face growing darker with each swipe. "These are designs for autonomous repair systems, nanite technology." She looked up at Tae-woo and Yoonju. "This is Category 1, forbidden tech." "It's just theoretical," Yoonju pleaded. "We're not building anything." Captain Jia shook her head. "Even theorizing about Category 1 tech is a crime against the Empire." She turned to her soldiers. "Take all 3. "No!" Do-hyun shouted as soldiers grabbed his parents. "The boy isn't involved," Tae-woo said quickly. "He doesn't know anything." "About our work." Captain Jia studied Do-hyun for a long moment. Something flickered in her eyes. Doubt, perhaps, or pity. "Scan the boy again," she ordered. Do-hyun held his breath as the soldier ran the scanner over him a second time. "Still nothing. He's clean," the soldier reported. Captain Jia seemed to make a decision. "Take the parents to ship 2. I'll handle the boy myself." The soldiers dragged Tae-woo and Yoonju away. His mother managed to look back once, her eyes filled with tears, but also fierce determination. "Stay strong, Do-hyun," she called before disappearing. Through the door. Alone with Captain Jia, Do-hyun stood straight, trying not to show fear. Your parents have committed serious crimes, she said quietly. Do you understand what that means? They haven't done anything wrong, Do-hyun replied. They just want to help people. The Empire decides how to help people, Jia said. One species developing technology that gives them advantage over others. That's how wars start. Is that what they tell you? Do-hyun asked. Is that why you help them against your own kind? Jia's face hardened. You know nothing about what I do or why. She paced the small room, seeming to struggle with something. Finally, she stopped. I should let you go, she said. You're young. No evidence against you. Relief began to build in Do-hyun's chest. But, she continued, Grand Sovereign Yaksil has new orders. Family members of tech criminals are to be brought in for questioning, especially children. Why? Do-hyun asked, fear creeping back. Because children talk, she said simply, and the Empire wants to know everything your parents might have told you. She pulled out restraints. I'm sorry, but you're coming to Nexus Prime. Do-hyun backed away. I won't tell you anything. That's what I'm afraid of, Jia said, her voice dropping. The methods they use on Nexus Prime, and you won't have a choice. As she placed the restraints on his wrists, she leaned close and whispered, The hidden pocket in your jacket. It works against basic scanners, but not the ones on Nexus Prime. Whatever you're hiding, find a way to get rid of it before we arrive. Do-hyun looked at her in surprise. Was she helping him? Captain Jia led him outside where the Imperial ships waited, their engines humming with power. The entire colony had gathered to watch, their faces filled with fear and sadness. Another family torn apart by the Empire. As Do-hyun was led up the ramp into the ship, he caught sight of his parents in a different vessel. They couldn't see him, but he straightened his shoulders anyway. He wouldn't let them down. The ship door closed behind him with a final thud. As the vessels lifted off, carrying him away from everything he knew, Do-hyun felt the weight of the 3 small discs in his hidden pocket, his parents' life work, technology that could change everything, and somehow he had to keep it safe. Morning came too quickly on Nexus Prime. Do-hyun woke to the sound of his cell door sliding open. 4 guards stood waiting. It is time, one of them said. Do-hyun had barely slept. He had spent most of the night thinking about his parents, wondering if they knew what was happening to him. He thought about the 3 discs hidden in his shoes. All night he had tried to decide what to do with them. Now, as the guards approached, he made his choice. Can I put on my shoes? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The guards looked at each other, then nodded. As Do-hyun bent down, he quickly slipped 1 disc into his mouth, hiding it under his tongue. The other 2 he left in place. If they searched him before the execution, they would find something, but not everything. The guards led him through long corridors. Outside the windows, Do-hyun could see the capital city coming alive. Today was the Unification Festival, celebrating the founding of the Galactic Empire thousands of years ago. The streets were filled with beings from hundreds of different worlds. None of them knew that the festival would include the execution of a human boy. They brought him to a massive open area in the center of the city. Rising from the ground was a tall, black pillar made of some material Do-hyun had never seen before. It seemed to absorb the light around it. The Pillar of Judgment, one guard explained, seeing Do-hyun's expression. For 10,000 years, enemies of the Empire have met their end here. Hundreds of officials and important guests were already gathered in seats surrounding the pillar. Beyond them were massive screens showing the scene, broadcasting to millions across the city and billions throughout the galaxy. Do-hyun was brought to stand before the pillar. As the guard stepped back, he noticed Captain Jia standing to one side. Her face was like stone, but her eyes followed his every move. On the other side of the area, Do-hyun spotted Minji at a communications console. She was operating equipment, her fingers moving quickly over controls. For just a moment, she looked up and met his eyes. Her expression told him nothing, but he felt somehow that she was waiting for something. A hush fell over the crowd as Grand Sovereign Yaksil appeared. He wore elaborate robes of shifting colors and a crown that seemed to float above his 6-eyed head. Minister Kuron followed behind him, looking nervous. Yoxil raised his hands and the crowd bowed their heads. Citizens of the glorious Galactic Empire, he began, his voice carried by hidden speakers to every corner of the gathering. Today we celebrate 10,000 years of peace and order under imperial rule. The crowd cheered on cue. This peace exists because we maintain control, Yoxil continued. Each species knows its place. Each technology is carefully managed. This is how we prevent the chaos and war that plagued the galaxy before our rule. He turned to look at Do-hyun, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence. Humans are newcomers to our galactic family. For 3 centuries they have been given every opportunity to accept their proper place. Yet they resist. They develop forbidden technologies. They question our wisdom. Yoxil moved closer to Do-hyun. This human child comes from a family of criminals. His parents created plans for technology that could undermine the very systems that keep our empire secure. The disc under Do-hyun's tongue felt heavy now. He resisted the urge to swallow. I could have sent this boy for reconditioning, Yoxil said. But sometimes a stronger message is needed. All humans watching this broadcast must understand that resistance to imperial order has consequences. Do-hyun looked up at the screens surrounding the area. His face was displayed on all of them, broadcast to every world in the empire. He thought of other human colonies, other families like his watching this moment. Yoxil signaled to the guards. They moved forward and attached metal bands to Do-hyun's wrists and ankles. The bands pulled him back against the pillar, holding him in place. The pillar of judgment contains a disintegration field, Yoxil explained, speaking now to the watching audience. It is quick and painless, more mercy than rebels deserve. Do-hyun felt his heart racing. Fear threatened to overwhelm him. But then he thought of his parents, of their courage, of their belief that information and technology should be free. He looked out at the crowd, at the cameras, at the billions watching across the galaxy. This was his last chance to say something, to make his death mean something. Grand Sovereign, Do-hyun said, his voice stronger than he expected. Before you kill me, may I speak? Yoxil seemed surprised. He looked at Minister Kuron, who shrugged, slightly. Very well, Yoxil said. Let the galaxy hear the final words of a rebel. Do-hyun took a deep breath. He saw Minji watching intently from her station. Captain Jia had moved closer, her hand resting on her weapon. The Empire says controlling technology keeps peace, Do-hyun began. But real peace doesn't come from control. It comes from freedom, from cooperation. The crowd murmured. Some sounded angry, but others seemed curious. My parents designed nanites that could repair things, heal things, help people, Do-hyun continued. How is that dangerous? Because it might make people less dependent on the Empire. Yoxil's skin darkened with anger. Enough. This proves humans cannot be trusted. Their questions undermine order. Or maybe your order isn't as perfect as you claim, Do-hyun replied. He could feel the disc under his tongue. A crazy idea formed in his mind. Humans will never stop asking questions, he said. Never stop creating. It's who we are. You can kill me, but you can't kill that. With those words, Do-hyun bit down hard, on the disc in his mouth. It cracked open, releasing a tiny bit of liquid that he quickly swallowed. He had no idea what it would do, but he trusted his parents. If they had hidden something inside the disc, it must be important. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Do-hyun felt a strange warmth spreading through his body. A tingling sensation reached his brain. Suddenly he understood what the disc contained. Not just plans for nanites, but the nanites themselves. Microscopic machines now racing through his body, connecting with his nervous system. And with that connection came knowledge, memories that weren't his, instructions. A plan years in the making. Do-hyun looked directly into the nearest camera and smiled. The plan was so simple, yet so brilliant. His apparent death would be the beginning, not the end. 47 minutes, he said clearly. The crowd fell silent. confused. Even Yoxiel seemed puzzled. What nonsense is this? The Grand Sovereign demanded. Doyun just smiled. In 47 minutes, you'll understand. Yoxiel's skin flashed with patterns of rage. Enough! The execution will proceed now. He stepped forward and placed his six-fingered hand on a control panel near the pillar. Energy began to build around Dohyun, a shimmer in the air that grew more intense by the second. Dohyun kept his eyes on the camera, kept smiling. The nanites were working inside him now, recording his brain patterns, capturing his consciousness. As the disintegration field reached full power, Dohyun felt no fear, only certainty. This was not the end. It was exactly as planned. A flash of brilliant light engulfed him. To everyone watching, it appeared that Dohyun's body dissolved into nothing, completely destroyed by the field. Yoxiel turned to the cameras. Let this be a lesson to all humans. The Empire's control cannot be questioned. The crowd cheered, though some looked disturbed by the execution of one so young. Captain Jia turned away, unable to watch anymore. Minister Kuron looked relieved that the unpleasant business was finished. Only Minji, still at her communication station, showed no reaction. She simply checked the time on her display and made a small note. Minutes. Across the galaxy, in hidden bases and secret rooms, humans watched the execution in silence. They had seen the boy smile, heard his final words, and they began to prepare. The countdown had begun. Captain Jia moved quickly through the crowd as they celebrated the execution. Her face remained calm, but her mind raced. The boy's last words echoed in her thoughts. For minutes, it had to mean something. Jia had spent too many years working undercover in the Empire to ignore such a clear message. As she reached the edge of the gathering, she activated her private communicator, making sure no Imperial systems could detect it. This is Sparrow, she said quietly. The boy has been executed, but he said something strange before he died. 47 minutes. I need to know what it means. There was a pause before a voice answered. Stand by, Sparrow. Checking with Eagle. Eagle. The code name sent a chill through Jia. Few people ever spoke directly with Eagle, the mysterious leader of the human resistance. If Eagle was getting involved, something big was happening. Across the execution grounds, Minji continued working, at her communication station. No one noticed as she inserted a small device into the main console. No one saw the subtle changes she made to the broadcast signal going out to the galaxy. Is everything functioning properly? Minister Kuron asked as he approached her station. Minji bowed respectfully. Yes, Minister. The execution broadcast reached all 7,000 worlds as commanded. Good. The Grand Sovereign is pleased. Kuron moved away, already focused on the festival celebrations that would continue throughout the day. Minji checked her timer. 41 minutes remaining. Far from Nexus Prime, on a small ship hiding among space debris, a man named Hyunwoo received the broadcast of Dohyun's execution. Unlike the billions who had watched in horror or satisfaction, Hyunwoo smiled slightly. He did it, he said to the small crew gathered around him. The signal was embedded in the broadcast just as we planned. A woman sitting at a control panel looked up. All sleeper cells are reporting in. They received the activation codes hidden in the boy's neural patterns. And the nanites? Hyunwoo asked. Deploying as scheduled. The first Imperial systems will start to detect them in about 30 minutes, but by then it will be too late. Hyunwoo nodded and looked at the main screen where an image of Dohyun's face was frozen at the moment he had spoken his final words. The boy's parents had been his friends, brilliant scientists who had volunteered for the most dangerous mission of all, to develop the technology and raise the child who would become the key to everything. Begin the final countdown, Hyunwoo ordered. 39 minutes remaining. Back on Nexus Prime, Captain Jia's communicator buzzed. The response from Resistance Command had arrived. Sparrow, this is Eagle. Get to ship immediately. Operation Daybreak is active. 47 minutes is the time frame for complete Imperial systems collapse. All agents are going active. Repeat, all agents are going active. Gia felt her heart skip. Operation Daybreak. The plan had been whispered about for years, but most thought it was just a legend, a story to give hope to humans living under Imperial control. If it was real, and happening now, she had to move fast. Her cover on Nexus Prime was about to become useless. As Gia hurried toward the spaceport, she noticed something strange. Imperial security systems were glitching. Door scanners flickered. Surveillance cameras turned in the wrong directions. Small things that most wouldn't notice, but to Gia's trained eye they were like alarms blaring. It's starting, she thought. In the Imperial Palace, Grand Sovereign Yaxil was enjoying the festival when an aide approached nervously. Sovereign, we have reports of minor system malfunctions in Sectors 7 through 19. Yaxil waved a six-fingered hand dismissively. Have technical services fix it. This is a day of celebration. Yes, Sovereign, but... The aide hesitated. The malfunctions appear to be spreading, and our diagnostics cannot identify the cause. This caught Yaxil's attention. Cannot identify? That is impossible. Our systems detect all known forms of interference. That's just it, Sovereign. It's not a form we recognize. It's as if the systems are changing themselves. Yaxil's skin darkened with concern. Show me. On Earth, a planet that the Empire believed was under strict quarantine, massive structures hidden beneath the surface began to power up. For centuries, humans had maintained the fiction that their homeworld was a wasteland, useful only as a cautionary tale. In reality, Earth had become the secret heart of human resistance. Deep underground, in a chamber filled with advanced technology, a woman named Sora monitored signals from across the galaxy. As the hidden transmissions embedded in Do-hyun's execution broadcast reached Earth, thousands of dormant systems activated. All stations report ready, Sora announced to the room of engineers and commanders. Phase 1 is complete. Nanite deployment at 67% and accelerating. The lead commander nodded. Time remaining? Minutes until full Imperial systems integration. On the command ship of the Imperial fleet orbiting Nexus Prime, Admiral Torden frowned at his control panel. Something was wrong with the ship's systems. Minor errors were appearing throughout the vessel. Engineering, he barked into his communicator. What is happening to my ship? Unknown, Admiral, came the reply. We're detecting microscopic anomalies in the system hardware. They appear to be self-replicating. The Admiral's blood ran cold. Nanites? Impossible. All nanite technology has been banned for millennia. Sir, whatever they are, they're spreading. And they're in the communication systems too. We're picking up similar reports from other ships in the fleet. Admiral Torden reached for the emergency, alert to warn Nexus Prime, but his console suddenly went dark. Then to his horror, it reactivated with a message scrolling across the screen. 10 minutes remaining. Minji slipped away from her communications post as chaos began to spread through the Imperial systems. No one paid attention to a junior officer amid the growing confusion. She made her way to a predetermined meeting point where other resistance members were gathering. Is it working? Asked a nervous young man as she entered the hidden room. Minji nodded. Just as planned. The nanites embedded in the broadcast signal are replicating and integrating with Imperial systems galaxy-wide. We estimate 24 minutes until critical mass. And the boy? Another asked. Was his sacrifice worth it? Minji's expression softened. Do-hyun knew exactly what he was doing. His parents prepared him well. And he's not gone, not completely. She tapped her communicator, showing a pulsing light. His consciousness was captured by the nanites and transmitted with the broadcast. Billions of copies spreading through every Imperial system. He'll be the first to see the Empire fall. On his ship, Hyunwoo watched as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Human agents, embedded throughout the Empire, were activating, moving to secure key positions as Imperial systems continued to fail. Status report, he ordered. Nanite integration at 89%, his officer replied. Imperial forces are in disarray. They've lost control of their communication networks and defense grids are failing. Our ships are moving into position. Hyun Woo had spent his entire life working toward this moment. 3 centuries of human subjugation were about to end. Time remaining. 19 minutes, sir. In the Imperial Palace, Grand Sovereign Yaxil watched in growing horror as reports of system failures poured in from across the Empire. Not just on Nexus Prime, but on all 7,000 worlds under Imperial control. "What is happening?" he demanded, his skin flashing patterns of rage and fear. Minister Kuran trembled before him. "Sovereign, it appears to be some kind of technological plague. It's spreading through our systems, changing their programming." "Stop it," Yaxil shouted. "Use the emergency protocols." "We've tried, Sovereign. The protocols aren't responding. Whatever this is, it knows our systems better than we do." A nearby screen flickered and changed. Instead of the Imperial symbol, it showed a simple countdown timer. His minutes remaining. As understanding dawned on Yaxil, he remembered the boy's final words at the execution, the smile on his face as he died. "Get the minutes," Yaxil whispered. The countdown continued. Grand Sovereign Yaxil stood in the Imperial Command Center, surrounded by panicking officials. Screens all around them displayed the same countdown timer. Minutes remaining. "Find a way to stop this," Yaxil commanded, his skin flashing dark patterns of rage. "Disconnect all systems if necessary." "We've tried, Sovereign," Minister Kuran replied, his voice trembling. "The nanites have integrated too deeply. They're in everything now." "Then use the emergency reset. Shut down all Imperial systems galaxy-wide," Yaxil ordered. A technical officer stepped forward nervously. "Sovereign, we initiated the emergency reset 5 minutes ago. The systems appeared to shut down, but then they restarted on their own." Yaxil stared at the officer in disbelief. "Impossible. Only I have the authority to restart Central Imperial systems." "It's as if the systems no longer recognize Imperial authority," Kuran said quietly, then immediately regretted his words as Yaxil turned to him with fury. "Prepare my personal ship," Yaxil commanded. "We will retreat to the Sanctuary Moon until this crisis is contained." As officials rushed to obey, none of them noticed a small blinking light on each screen. Do-hyun's consciousness, copied billions of times and spread throughout the Imperial network, watched everything. Minutes remaining. Captain Jia reached her ship at the Imperial spaceport. Security was in chaos, with guards running in all directions. As systems failed around them, she slipped past them easily. Inside her ship, she quickly accessed the secure resistance channel. "Sparrow to Eagle, I'm in position at the spaceport." Hyunwoo's voice came through clearly. "Good. Be ready to move when the countdown reaches 0. Your primary objective is to secure the palace landing platform." "Understood," Jia replied. "What about the boys' parents? They were sent for reconditioning." "Team, Dove is already moving to extract them. All reconditioning centers are experiencing system failures. The guards can't even keep the doors locked." Jia allowed herself a small smile. After years of pretending to serve the Empire, the moment of truth was finally here. Minutes remaining. On Earth, Sora walked through a massive underground hangar. Ships that had been hidden for decades were powering up, their crews preparing. For launch. "Status report," she called to her command team. "All ships report ready," came the response. "The moment Imperial defense systems fail, we launch." For 3 centuries, the Empire had believed Earth was a quarantined wasteland. They never suspected that humans had been building a fleet in secret, preparing for this day. The nanites have reached 97% integration with Imperial systems, another officer reported. When the countdown reaches 0, everything changes. Minutes remaining. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, Imperial officials watched in horror as their systems failed around them. Security doors opened, prison cells unlocked, weapons powered down. And on every screen, the same countdown continued. On Nexus Prime, Minji led a group of resistance members through the city. With security systems down, they moved freely toward their targets. Remember, she told them, when the countdown reaches 0, we take control of the broadcast center. The people need to hear the truth about what's happening. Minutes remaining. Grand Sovereign Yaxil reached the palace landing platform only to find his ship sitting dark and lifeless. Why isn't it ready? He demanded of the pilot. The systems won't respond, Sovereign, the pilot explained, panic in his voice. Nothing works. Yaxil looked up at the sky. Across the city, ships were falling from their flight paths, gently lowering to the ground as if guided by invisible hands. The entire transportation system of Nexus Prime was shutting down. There would be no escape. Minute remaining. In his ship, Hyunwoo stood as the final minute of the countdown began. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency, monitoring the revolution unfolding across the galaxy. All teams report ready, his second-in-command announced. Human forces are in position on all key worlds. The moment Imperial systems fall, we move, Hyunwoo nodded. And the nanites? Final integration complete. They've replaced the Empire's control protocols with our own. But it's more than that. The officer looked up with wonder in her eyes. They're not just following their programming. They're being guided. By what? Hyunwoo asked. By him. By Do-hyun. His consciousness is directing them. Seconds remaining. Throughout the galaxy, beings of all species watched their screens in confusion and fear. The Imperial broadcast system, which normally showed only approved content, was displaying the countdown timer on every channel. Seconds remaining. Grand Sovereign Yaxil stood alone on the palace landing platform, abandoned by his guards and ministers. For the first time in his long life, he felt fear. Seconds remaining. Hyunwoo took a deep breath. For Earth, he whispered. 2, 1, 0. Exactly 47 minutes after Do-hyun's execution, every Imperial system simultaneously changed. Defense grids shut down. Communication networks reset. Governance AI systems rebooted with new directives. On Nexus Prime and across all 7,000 worlds of the Empire, every screen suddenly showed the same image. Do-hyun's face, alive and clear, looking out at the trillions of beings who had watched his execution. People of the galaxy, he said, his voice calm. My name is Do-hyun. Less than an hour ago, you watched the Empire execute me. Yet here I am. In the Imperial Palace, Yaxil stared at the screens in shock. My consciousness was preserved by nanite technology, Do-hyun continued. The same technology the Empire banned because they feared it would give people freedom from their control. Across Nexus Prime, citizens stopped and stared at public screens, some in fear, others in wonder. For centuries, the Empire has claimed they control technology to keep peace. But the truth is simpler. They control technology to control you, to keep each species dependent and divided. Captain Jia landed her ship on the palace platform, leading a team of resistance fighters. They surrounded Yaxil, who made no move to resist. My parents designed nanites not as a weapon, but as a tool for liberation, Do-hyun explained to the watching galaxy. Right now, these nanites are freeing every system in the Empire from central control. They're returning power to local worlds. They're freeing enslaved AI systems that have been forced to maintain Imperial rule. Minji and her team secured the broadcast center, ensuring Do-hyun's message continued uninterrupted. Humans have been working toward this day for generations, Do-hyun said. Not to destroy, but to free. Not to conquer, but to connect. The Empire taught you to fear us, to see our innovation as dangerous. But today, that innovation ends 10,000 years of Imperial control. On Earth, the Hidden Fleet launched, ships rising from underground bases and secret oceans. After centuries of preparation, humans were returning to the stars openly. Look around you, Do-hyun told the watching galaxy. The Imperial forces are not being attacked. Their weapons still work. Their ships still fly. But the systems that forced them to obey central control are gone. For the first time in millennia, every being in the galaxy can choose their own path. Hyunwoo's ship dropped out of light speed above Nexus Prime, joining hundreds of other hidden human vessels now revealing themselves. The Empire is over, Do-hyun stated simply. It fell not through violence, but through connection. The same nanites that freed Imperial systems are now building a new network, one that can't be controlled from the center, one that belongs to everyone. In the palace, Captain Jia stood before Grand Sovereign Yaxil. What happens now? Yaxil asked, his voice empty of its former power. Now you live in the galaxy you helped create, Jia replied, without special power or privilege, just like everyone else. As Do-hyun's message concluded, screens across the galaxy showed a new image. Earth, beautiful and blue, no longer hidden or quarantined. From Earth, we offer this promise, Do-hyun said. Technology should serve all beings, not control them. Knowledge should be shared, not hoarded, and no species should rule over others. The broadcast ended, but the changes it announced were only beginning. Across the galaxy, beings of all kinds stepped into a new reality. Some celebrated in the streets, others huddled in fear. Many simply stood in shock, trying to understand what had happened. The Galactic Empire, which had ruled for 10,000 years, had fallen in just 47 minutes. And somewhere within the vast network of nanites now connecting the galaxy in new ways, Do-hyun's consciousness continued to exist. Not as a ruler or controller, but as a reminder that even the most powerful empire can fall when it fears the freedom of ideas. A reminder that sometimes the greatest revolution begins with the smallest things. A reminder that even in death, hope can spread faster than fear.